Well, welcome to Punch Out Boxing. Delighted to be here again with my good friend John Trethewey. John, back in your car, back with me. That can mean only one thing. It's fight week for TM14 promotions. And you know what? In all the furore of all these big ring magazine shows, what have you, let's not forget the card you're putting on at York Hall is a banger. Um, but yeah, so if you could tell us about it. First of all, I know the headline, Weber Kane against Albrecht, seems like that's fallen through according to Brandon. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean it's still a good card. Sadly, we've had a couple of fights pull out. Well, three or four pull out in the last couple of weeks. We've managed to get a couple of substitutes in to make it a decent card, but we did lose the main title fight and an eliminator, which was a shame. Brandon Albrecht was injured, which is a shame. He'd obviously trained for it. Feel really sorry for Michael Weber Kane. He's worked with us a lot. He'd prepared for that fight 2 weeks' notice, and then it's off. My understanding is that Michael will be in a big fight soon. Not sure it'll be on my show, but we're cool with that as long as he gets his opportunity. But shame we lost that one.
Yes, pity. I think Michael has posted something on social media that he's got a fight against Haytham, the Southern Area champ at lightweight. So that's on a good win show, I guess, in June sometime. So yeah, good
Yeah,
on.
I didn't see that he'd announced it. That's exactly what I heard. Good fighter, Ahmed Hatim. Let's see there. But so is Mikey. Mikey's very experienced. He's undefeated. He's had that one draw at the O2, but I think he's got 14 wins under his belt. So, Mikey will probably go in on paper, maybe a slight favourite, but he's in the backyard. He's in the away corner because it's a good win show, and he's a very, very good fighter, Ahmed. So I'll be watching that keenly for sure.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. But bit of a coup for you. You've got this crazy guy that Leon Sudbury recruited out of Germany, MUZAMIRU KAKANDE, who shot to fame on the Wasserman card, and he knocked out the top prospect Howard, him against Egbenike.
Yes, sadly, you're probably not aware of that the Egbenike, that fight's not on now either. Earlier in the week, we found out that what day is it? Tuesday, I think Sunday, Monday, there was problems being signed off for the opponent, Egbenike, on some medical stuff. I'm sure he's fine and he'll be back, but it's just the board didn't sign it off. So he's still fighting. It is great to have him on there. He is with Leon and we work close with Leon. Leon's got quite a few good fighters. And he trains at the Peacock Gym as well, Kakandi, the King Kong as they call him. So we're looking forward to having him on there. I think we've just got something over the line for him, and it should be an 8-rounder. But we're looking forward to seeing what he can bring because you're right. I think he has shot to fame a bit with that win over Dan Toward.
Yeah, oh, that's a shame. Him against Egbenike, that sounded like a banger, and it was for a title, wasn't it? So,
Yeah, that was the other one. That was for a title. So he's still on, but the title's not on, and the eliminator's not on for the other one. That's kind of the bit that hurts. But that's boxing. But we move on. Still a good card.
it is, and well, having Kakandi on the show, it's still worth keeping him because he does bring fireworks. And he's what a character he is.
He is a character. You're right. If you probably interviewed him, you know everyone anyway. But for those that haven't seen him, he really is a character. First time I met him was down at Peacock a few months back. It was before the Dan Toward fight, and Leon introduced him. He went, "Oh, this is John. Come and say hello." He goes, "Tell him what you're going to do to Dan Toward," and he stood in front of me like it was his biggest audition he'd ever had. I thought it was me that was going to get a right hook in the face. To be fair, his passion, his enthusiasm, but yeah, look, he looks like a right handful. So it'd be good to have him on. I know that there's talk about the next fight. We may well have that as well, and that'll probably be another step up. The problem you've got is when a fight falls through of that magnitude, with like a couple of weeks' notice, you've got to find someone who's ready in the gym and wants to take on someone like that. They're hard to make these 50-50 fights in the first place, let alone when you've got hardly any notice. They're not always the easiest things to pull off.
Yeah, very difficult work for you guys at the small hall level, but you're delivering nevertheless. Um, the heavyweight fight, Louis Paquetti against Martin SVARC. Tell me that's still on.
It is still on, yeah, and we're excited about that. Obviously, the first fight, he was on a top tier show there, Louis. He was on our shows, and he went over to them. They took on this fighter. I think at the time was he 3-1 Martin SVARC, and Lewie deserved and needed a step up in my opinion. They stepped him up and he lost on points. I wasn't there. I saw bits of it. I actually caught a bit of it live because I think it was on a Sunday, that show. So I
Hmm.
never normally get to watch it. If it's on a Saturday night, either I've got my shows or I'm out or doing something with the family. But it was a Sunday afternoon. I thought, oh, I'll have a little look, and I caught the end of it. And I could just see a disappointment. I spoke to his team and that, like, literally next day, and they were like, we just want to play that back, and they wanted to come back on the show. And you got to give him credit, Lewie and his team and his manager, Victor, because a lot of people on a defeat like that, why would you go back in for it? And this guy's not coming over here to make up the numbers. You know, he's flying in later in the week, and he will be coming over here to win again, is what he will be open to do. But we expect to see a better version of Lewie. And as everyone says, you usually learn from your defeats anyway. So whilst they hate it because, you know, you've lost that O and that invincibility, but actually it probably makes you take a bit of stock, and let's see what he can give. But that should be a good fight.
Yeah, it is fantastic. I was actually there for that fight. Needless to say, his manager Victor was absolutely irate, and think he gave a piece of his mind to the referee who scored it for Spark. But he said Spark. Obviously, none of us knew anything about him other than I think his one defeat was to I think Roman Fury. So it was a name that he lost to, but he shocked a lot of us. He's a lot better than we realised. I think he was a top kickboxer. And he said he
Yeah, well,
had,
they're both 4-1 now, and as you say, you know, Roman Fury's a big name. Louis only a 19, 20-year-old maybe now, but young lad. He's still learning the ropes, and he took on a tough fight there. And as I said, fair play to him for doing it, and fairer play, bigger balls for actually just going right, get straight back in with the same person. That shows the character of Louis and the team to take it. But we fully expect Louis to come through that and win on Saturday night.
yeah, let's hope so. We want Louis back in that domestic heavyweight mix, which is a veritable golden era. And we've got to enjoy this as Brits because we don't know if we'll have to wait another 100 years when it's over. Young Harvey, he's going from strength to strength, fight to fight. He's on your show, and again a bit of a step up. Charles Tondo, the opponent, who obviously got a winning record, very capable.
Yeah, again, another 8-rounder, another fighter of Leon Sabri. You know, they flipped between a few different promoters. Another one who's been on Johnny Clark and top tier show, and now he's come on to ours. We've had him before as well. He said already a few names being thrown around about maybe you will know, and he's got to come through that because you're right, he's got a very good winning record. We expect Harvey to come through that, and then maybe you'll see Harvey in some title fights next, I would have thought.
Yeah, speaking to his coach, he's very confident in his abilities. And I don't know if you know, he's in contact with the great James Toney, who Harvey Smith models his style on. And Tony himself has given him the seal of approval. So, yeah, big things expected from young
I
Harvey.
like it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what other
good.
fights can you tell us about that are going to be in the card? I don't think BoxRec are fully updated yet.
Yeah, you got a few on there as usual. Got Dorimogos on there. I look forward to having him on there. We've got Frankie Story on there. I'm trying to think because I haven't got my book in front of me. And we've got a fight 2 weeks later. I'm getting a bit confused. And then we got another one that we've just announced as well. What you'll find is that there's actually a few names on it. Armis Balazi, I think he's 6-0. He's never fought for us before. I'm really looking forward to seeing him. Rob Lloyd Taylor's back on there. You know, very slick operator. Had his last 3 or 4 fights, I think, on Channel 5. A lot of the usual suspects that we work with. You got to remember we had the York Hall show. Then a week later, we had the Big O2 show where a lot of them fought on and fought each other. We had a week off, and then we had the Chelsea show against the Americans where a lot of our regulars there. So they kind of all, we've done so many shows recently that they're all out, but there's so many fighters that want to get out and work with us, which is great. So it's actually quite an interesting card for us because a lot of them have either not fought for us before or a long time or maybe just the one fight. So it's a great chance for us to continue building relationships and see how they get on our platform.
Yeah, fantastic. So we'll be looking forward to that. Um, Later on in the month, 24th of May, that show's still on. The
Yeah.
headliner, if it's still on, please tell me it is. Finley against Carvel. I mean, two unbeaten guys from two of the hotbeds of boxing talent, one from Essex, one from South Wales. They, this is essentially their big step up, isn't it? 50-50.
It is sadly Finley. Carvel's now taken a different fight and gone a different route. So that bit, however, he's been rematched Finley. He is still headlining and he's fighting an undefeated fighter called Harley Hodgetts down in Michael Ballinall's gym, trains with Michael McKinson and Lucas Ballinall. So, we know that gym well. We know he comes from good stock and he's 4-0. He's undefeated himself. So don't know much about him. He's had a bit of inactivity, but he's come back, got his license and he's going straight in the deep end. I think Finley's a class act. Again, I think Finley's probably 6-0 or 7-0 now. Most of those fights have been with us. He's had a couple on the other show. However, he is a slick operator, Finley. They've taken their time with him well. We haven't rushed him. They haven't rushed him. He's only a young lad. I like his style. He's a very good boxer. I'm a purist, me. So, I mean, you've spoke before, like Mayweather's my favourite fighter. I do like the boxer. Don't get me wrong. I love the big knockout artists as well. But I get quite excited by Finley. So it's great to have him on. His tickets are flying out as usual with Finley. He's a good ticket seller. Again, he comes from a good gym. He's got Mark and Jimmy Tibbs in his corner. They don't need any introduction at all. So we're looking forward to that fight and that show as well.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt Finley he's a great talent, and as you said, being moved the right way. But I mean, he's only 6 fights in, so it is a step up. I mean, like you said, Hodges, he'll be technically really good as well if he's coming from the McKinson gym.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, he's 4-0. He hasn't stopped anyone himself, but the McKinsons aren't necessarily known for knockout power. They're known for slick boxers, which is why I like those two fighters and the dad very, very well, because they know what they're doing. And I don't expect it'll be much different if he's trained by Michael. However, I haven't seen any footage of him, so I'll leave that down to Jimmy and Mark and Finley to study that and come up with a game plan, which I'm sure they will. But yeah, a great live fighter coming to have a go, and it's that step up now that Finley needs, and he's been given the platform where he can headline because he deserves that. Got just added Lerone Richards on this week, which is good. I think he's an ex-IBO world champion, so he's definitely going to be fighting on that. He needs to a comeback fight after his defeat, and again, it's another good card on the 24th. In addition, we've just announced the June 28th card, which is another really good card. So it keeps us busy going into the summer and keeping the fighters active, which is what we try and do.
Yeah, I've seen the posts on social media. Before we come to the 28th, just want to check whether some of the fighters that are on the post are still on it. Andre Descalli, is he due to be on it?
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen
Yeah, he's on.
my interview with Victor Adaga, who's one of the top journeymen. And I always like to ask journeymen this, who's the top talent you've been in with? He said Andre. Yeah, Andre needs to come on now, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think, he's won a Southern Area before. I'm sure he did. That was on Channel 5, I think, in the end, wasn't it? He had a few fights for us. Then he went on Channel 5. Now he's come back. Exceptionally good boxer. Again, he's strong, but as a boxer, he's very, very good. That doesn't surprise me that Victor said that, but it's still a great accolade to be given something like that from a journeyman like Victor Adaga, who's probably had about 70, 80 fights. So, yeah, that proves you the level that he's at. But no, we're looking forward to having him on. He's undefeated again. He's not easy to match. And I think that, this fight, I'm not sure he'll fight yet. The matchmaker's on it. But the fight after probably be a very big fight for Andre because they're ready for that now, I think.
Absolutely. One of the fights, Nathan Brown, whose career's been a bit stop-start, intrigued by his opponent, Valentin Marku. Is he any relation to the better-known Florian?
Yeah, good question. I don't believe he is. I have asked the question, but the people I asked weren't 100% sure, but we don't think so. But again, another live opponent, Nathan Brown or Nathan Gonzalez, he kind of goes by two names. I'm not really sure which one it is. We've had a couple of his fights before as well. It's time for him to step up already. He's technically very, very good, Nathan. When you speak to the lads in the gym, a lot of them are like John. He's really, really hard to pin down. And it'll be interesting to see. Some fighters, they go 8, 9, 10 fights before they have a step up. I think he's taking it a bit early than most, but there's nothing wrong with that. My own opinion is there's some fighters that do go 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12 without a big step up. Now, I'm not always sure they need that many, but, that's not my decision. That's down to the manager and the trainer of the fighter and how they plot their path. But again, he's with Azza. in the gym. We work well with Azza, and we expect a good performance there from Nathan. It'd be nice to have him back on.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little aside from on a personal note, our friend Abdul, who introduced me to you, so you could launch my career, bore everyone with that story. His
I
son,
love it. You
his
keep
son
telling it.
Jahid, making a comeback on your show.
Yeah, we've never actually had Jahid on our show. It's real pleasure to have us. We obviously worked for Abdul for a good couple of years at TM14, and now he kind of goes and works for some of the others. But we're in contact again, and he needs Jahid back. It's great to see that Jahid is back. I think he drew last time when he was back, wasn't he? So is he 1-1 now, Jahid? I've actually had the pleasure of watching Jahid spar. You don't share sparring stories, certainly on YouTube videos. I'll tell you offline, you probably heard it, but I've watched Jahid drop top operators in sparring in the gym a couple of years ago, so I know what he's capable of. But it's been a bit stop-start for Jahid. He was, then he wasn't, then he was, then he wasn't, and now he's back. So we're pleased that they've come to us to get him back on there, and it'd be really nice to have Jahid on. I've had the privilege of going around Jahid's house. I've had food with his family and stuff, and I haven't seen Jahid for a couple of years, so it'd be great to have him on.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, stop-start. So let's hope it's just start and continue from here on. Right, so June the 28th, I've seen the poster, got really excited at the press conference for Dubois Usyk. I brought the headliner up with Don Charles because his lad's headlining. You've got a big heavyweight fight headlining. Doesn't come easy.
Yeah, and you know what I'm hoping? The thing with boxing, like this show we were doing this weekend, we lost the 2 title fights. Still a good card, but sometimes you put a card together and it's like really good or amazing, and then the odd thing happens here or there. Sometimes you put an average card together and then you add to it. This card will look very tasty. I'm not sure which one you'd call a headline because there's a lot. There's 3 or 4 on there at the moment, and we've got another one that we're sort of like working on that we hold fire for a couple of weeks. I can't talk anything about it, but hopefully that'll be even bigger. But that fight in particular, Harry Armstrong against Gideon Antwi, really good fight. I feel really sorry for Harry. Harry's a good fighter. He's only lost against Jamie TKV and Johnny Fisher, sorry, how can I forget that? So they're exceptional operators. We see where they're at now, so there's no shame in that. He was all ready to go against the Americans. We had the full press conference. He had his full training camp, and then sadly, literally 4 days before the fight, the American was about to fly over, and medicals weren't signed off between America and the UK. The UK have got to do what they got to do and check the medicals, but they weren't happy with what was coming over from America, so the fight got pulled on fight week. We worked hard to get him a replacement. We nearly pulled off like a really good 50-50 on like 48 hours notice against a UK fighter where they were just going to jump in, but it just wasn't really right for both parties. A fight like that, you wouldn't really just throw him in with 48 hours notice. So he will be back, and we're looking forward to having Harry on. Feels like we need to look after him because he didn't get that fight. I mean, it weren't our fault, but I know he was really disappointed, and I know his family were upset and stuff like that. But sometimes things in boxing happen that none of us can control. And when it comes down to medicals, even the magicians can't fix that. So we are looking forward to that fight. Gideon Antwi, he's only had a couple of fights himself. He's undefeated. He's been with us. He has an excellent amateur pedigree. Technically very good for a heavyweight. Yet to see the power. But when you're fighting fights like this where they both come for it, people leave gaps, and maybe we'll see some power from Gideon. Maybe we'll see some real good quality from Harry. But yeah, very good fight that.
Yeah, absolutely. Incidentally, Gideon, a neighbour of mine, and I've actually sort of followed his career for a couple of years. So I like Harry, but hey, you got to go local in my case. But yeah, a couple of other fights. Bassi v James. I think it's fair to say a bit of a crossroads fight. A very, very good crossroads fight. Both guys looking to get back into the top level mix in this country. Must win for both of them.
Yeah, it's a great fight. I mean, between us, sort of like letting it out now, it might have to change the date on that one for various reasons here and there, but the fight's on. We'll probably have something on the line for it. Inder's obviously, I should class Inder as part of the family. We've had a lot of his fights. He served me very well. You appreciate good fighters, which he is, but as a promoter at small hall, you certainly appreciate those that can help you balance the books and well. And Inder's always done that for us. He's been in fantastic fights. We helped him get his Southern Area title fight, which he won in dramatic fashion with a stoppage, and then he defended it in another dramatic game as well, fight as well. He stepped up to English level against Sean Noakes, and he came unstuck that night. No shame in that at all. I don't think that was the best version of Inder. That's not me being biased. I know Sean as well. I said it on an interview the other day. Sean's a terrific fighter, but now's a chance for Inder to kind of kick on. He's had a couple of fights since. He went on a Matchroom show. And then he's had 2 more with us. I feel sorry for Inder. He was due to fight for the WBF world title on the Chelsea show against Lucas Ballinal. And that fight fell through. Lucas went on and fought Elliot Whale, as you would have seen, which kind of left Inder out high and dry a little bit. Frustrated for him. No different from Harry. I mean, Inder did fight that week. He ultimately fought a last-minute replacement that certainly wasn't at the level of a title. But he's professional as always. He turned up, he did his job, he got his win, and now he's chomping at the bit. And it's like, John, I'm not messing around anymore. Get me a title opportunity, which we will get and have got, and we will announce that in due course. And Ethan, you're right, it is a crossroads for Ethan. I know Ethan well. We've never had him, but he trains out the gym in Northampton with James Conway. That was the first gym that we ever put a show on in Northampton, so we used to go down there a lot. I've watched him spar a lot. I've kept a keen eye on all his fights. Technically exceptional. He rolled the dice and he took on the dangerous southpaw Ursu that everybody's talking about how great he is, and clearly that proved it on the night, and he got caught, and that was all she wrote. That doesn't mean that's the end of Ethan. Ethan's also had another defeat as well, so some people would sit there and think after a defeat like that they might go and have a tune-up or 2 tune-ups, but Ethan's like, I don't want that. Ethan, he wants good fights, and again, if we can get something on it, which we know we will, it's a good fight and a very good 50-50, and styles make fights. Inder will probably come forward a bit more. Ethan likes to fight off the back foot. Let's see.
Yeah, kudos to him for going straight back in. Regular of ours, Jordan Dujon going up against PA Gordon, move up in weight for Jordan. Yeah, intriguing.
Yeah, again, the date, it might be a bit of a tweak on the date on that. There's reasons why, but the fight's on. There will be something on it again. I like this fight a lot. They're all good fights, but Jordan Dujon, we've had him a few times. He came to Texas with us. He wasn't a fighter, but Harvey Horn fought in Texas against the USA in the first leg, and his trainer couldn't make it for one reason or another. So he sort of like came as his assistant or his number 2, if you like. And the way he conducted himself over there was first class. When you spend time with someone for like 4, 5, 6 days, he actually stayed in the same house as me. So Dennis and I drinking a bit of alcohol, so we had to sit and endure that, bless him. But very, very good guy. We wanted to work with him, and then he came back. He fought Tyrone King. Hats off to Tyrone. That was a great fight. And it was a really, really good fight for us. But Jordan came out on top. He's gone out. Everybody says that's the best Jordan's ever fought. I certainly think it's the best I've seen Jordan. Jordan's got 4 defeats, I think, on his record, but they all come against good operators. But now it's a bit like, look, I just want good fights. And because he fought so well, and that was the highest he ever weighed, he's going to stay up at middleweight. Paul Gordon, or PA Gordon, or Muffin Top, as he's affectionately known, he's a different operator. He's a bit slick. He's not known for knockout power. Having said that, he stopped Tom Brennan last time, which was a great stoppage for him, because Tom's a great opponent, a live opponent there. And he looked very good, but technically excellent. Paul, again, part of the family. It's in the gym that we work closely with, and we've had Paul on our show 3, 4, maybe 5 times if I include the Peacock shows I did as well. So I'm not sure who wins that. That's a real 50-50, like the others that we've talked about, but we'll certainly look forward to that come fight night.
Absolutely. Your man, Jack Hughes, he doesn't rest, does he? He's going straight in with another banger, Josh Notley, who just put on a titanic fight with young Sam Mullins. But yeah, Jack just wants to fight, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the stuff on the socials the last couple of days. I mean, Jack definitely knows how to talk the talk online, and there's a bit of needle on this one, like real needle. The fight was on, then it was off, then it was on, then it was off, and then in the end, It was a bit like talking to a couple of kids where I'm like, what the bloody hell are you arguing over? We were arguing, one wants 6 round, one wants 8 rounds. Then there was a little bit about the weight back and forth. I'm talking like a couple of pounds here, but they've seen sense in the end. Why go different ways and fight someone else when you want the fight? All that's happened is a bit of back and forth on social. Jack's done what Jack does and called him out. Josh hasn't taken it too well. Neither has Gav, his trainer, because they don't like what's being said. And I think that just adds to a bit of needle. I might enlist you, mate, for a bit of a gloves are off here, because it could be quite meaty. But, two small fellas, and not a crossroads as such for Jack. Jack's my fighter, so I believe in Jack. But Jack's been around a while now. He hasn't come back to just go through journeyman and just turn up. He's won the Southern area before a couple of times. He's had 3 10-round wars. Josh has only had 3 fights. He's not as experienced, but Josh looked good in defeat against Harry Mullins. Harry Mullins is at the same gym as Jack. What Jack will want to do is go and get bragging rights in his own stable there. Jack will want to go out there and put on a statement against Josh, and I know that Jack still harbours the ambitions of going on and winning titles, and Jack needs to go and beat Josh if he wants to do this. But trust me, Josh believes he's got his number, and it will be a bit of a war on the night, and I think both of them like a fight. So, when I say styles make fights, and, someone off the back foot, someone on the front foot, don't blink. I can see them both stood in the middle of that ring and just swinging, flipping haymakers all night. And that should be a good fight.
Absolutely. And quite a few talented guys. You got Lucas Rurik, who we've talked about. He's down to appear. Sonny Hardy, who's coming on nice. Kieran Keane, who looked great last time out. And Dan Francis, he's the Southern Area welterweight champion. Is this a stay busy fight for him, or will he be defending his title?
Watch this space is all I'll say there. And Dan is a class act. I've got to be honest. I backed my guy Ollie Duffy in that last fight. That fight immediately after I was told by the board it was up for fight of the year contender, and rightly so. It's probably the best fight we've ever had, and I certainly enjoyed having that on. I believed that Ollie would win that. And at the end of the day, he just come up a bit too short. That fight could have gone either way, but Dan really showed his credentials there, and we're looking forward to having him back on. In addition, you mentioned Lucas Rurik, really good person to have on the show. Sorry, just saw the light there. Really good person to have on the show. Again, he's with George Groves. He's a class act. We think he goes a long way. He came and fought against the Americans. He come and fought someone with a winning record. I think that fellow was 4-1, and I spent the week with that American Brian Jones that came to fight him, and I'll be honest, this guy, I was worried that he might not beat Lucas, but that it was a 50-50 fight on paper. And when you spend time with someone and you watch the confidence they come with, but he was on point. He won every round. He won 6 rounds. It was 60-54. I'm sure it was a 6-rounder. Every round was a test, but he was just technically perfect, and he's got power. And equally, we've got the other cruiserweight that was one of the best fights we've ever had as well, which is Oriel Wignat. He fought the American, dropped him early in the first or second round, and then the guy came back, and it was just an absolute war. I know you were there. So to have both of those back on that show, they're high-profile fighters. We were chuffed to have them on Chelsea. They both fought for us. Then they both went on a Sky Sports show on the same show, and both got stoppages, and I think they were asked to carry on with Sky for a little bit, but they stuck to their word and came with us at TM14 on the Chelsea show, and now they're both signing up again for another fight. So shows we're doing something right. And you mentioned some of the other names there. Sonny Hardy, Sonny's ready for a step up now. I've said this before, you can't have favourites, but Sonny, every fight's been with us, and he's 8-0 now, or 7. He's loyal. There's a few others like that as well, but I feel like I'm part of the family there. They are a great family. He's a great fighter. He's with Kev. Great people he spars and knocks around with. I think he's ready for a step up. And he's quite avoided, Sonny. When you try and match him in a 50-50, most people don't want to know, which tells you maybe around those weights that he's possibly one of the better ones. So looking forward to that one. Kieran Keane, you mentioned him, great prospect, amongst a few other names. But we're looking forward to this show. And as I said, watch this. I even some of them names on there, I nearly got one of them to stay over the line in another 50-50. Hopefully that'll be confirmed, and we'll confirm that at a later date with maybe some announcements for some of the other fighters that we've already talked about.
Well, fabulous as ever. York Hall will remain buzzing, treating us this summer. It's going to be a great summer of boxing, isn't it? From York Hall to all these stadium shows. Like I said, golden era of British boxing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice. You know, the big shows at the moment, they are big. The one at the weekend was good. You know, I divided a bit of opinion. I saw a few people, it was like, you know, is it because of the dads or whatever? But no one can take away that was a great spectacle at the weekend. Right result for me, I felt. But big shows that are being put on, they cost a lot of money. The purses are big, but the backing's there. And then you haven't got no different now. You're now looking forward to that's finished. And then out Usyk Dubois. You know, Dubois our guy. We've known him a few years. I hope Dubois does it. I'm a bit biased, but I've said this for a couple of months. If they rematched and it was at Wembley, you know, when he got beat, he wasn't as experienced. He's gone on and beat 2 or 3 high-level operators, including AJ, as we know. He's won that IBF title. He's full of confidence, Dan. And Usyk's got to come into London with 60. Well, it's at Wembley, isn't it? Not Tottenham. So probably 80, 90,000 people there. If they sell that out screaming for Dubois, that'll be a different fight. That, you know, and he did drop Usyk in the first fight, although it was a low blow. That's what it was given as, so you got to go with that. But some people would argue it. Had it not been given a low blow and had Usyk have got up, that might have been a bit different, but it wasn't. So he's got a chance to redeem it and see what he does. But he's definitely a better fighter now, and he's learnt from those fights. So Usyk, I'm not saying he's on the slide. Jesus, he's a pound for pound great, but you know he's beaten them all now. He's already beaten Dubois. He's beaten AJ. He's beaten Fury. You know, will he still have that same desire now? Let's see that. I'm looking forward to that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not forget it's also a historic event, the first undisputed heavyweight championship ever to be contested in the UK. So yeah, we've waited, like I said, pretty much over 100 years for this. So let's enjoy it. All right,
Very
John,
good.
thank you again so much for your time at your busy schedule. Yeah, we look forward to the shows, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon.
Cheers, mate. Speak soon.